Hi and welcome back to the channel to discuss all things aviation, and Jada here welcoming you back. Listen, before I tell you what we're going to be dealing with today on this episode, I want to excite you a little bit. In the next 2 to 3 weeks, we'll be running a competition on this channel. We're still working out the modalities of that particular competition. But it's going to be exciting. You've got to be a subscriber for you to participate in this competition. You've got to be a resident in South Africa for you to participate in this particular competition. It's going to be exciting. So watch out. In the next 2 to 3 weeks, we will be announcing here what the competition is going to be. What are the prizes to be won in that particular competition? T's and C's apply. All right, as usual, T's and C's apply. While you're waiting for the rollout of that competition, why don't you click the like button, smash that subscribe button, and share these videos, share these content, share the link to the YouTube channel amongst your community of aviators. It helps us grow. It helps our channel become more visible to more aspiring aviators who get helped by the content that we bring to them. We appreciate your support. We've gone over the 1,000 mark. We are inching closer and closer to our desired, threshold of 10,000 subscribers. And only with your support can we get there. Right. Thank you very much for supporting us. Thank you very much for liking our videos, for subscribing, and for sharing these in your community of aviators. We appreciate that a lot. Now, back to today's video. What are we dealing with today? We caught up with Tony from the U.S. Armed Forces at the recent Africa Aerospace and Defense in AFB Waterkloof in Pretoria in the month of September 2022. Now, he took us through a tour of their aircraft, the C17, which is a Boeing aircraft, a military transport aircraft belonging to the New York Guard. That's what they call it, the New York Guard. An impressive aircraft used for cargo. It can be used for cargo configuration. It can be used as an air ambulance, for evacuation of people who are wounded in a conflict zone, and so forth and so forth. But let me not give you, let me not give too much away. Let me allow you to listen to Tony and see, and hear what he said about the capabilities of that huge aircraft called the C17. Come with me. Let's see what Tony had in store for us.
So this is the Boeing C17. This one, my name is Tony, Master Sergeant Anthony Galeotto, call me Tony. This particular C-17 is stationed at Stewart Air National Guard Base in New York, back in USA. And since we're such great friends with South Africa, South Africa asked us to bring a plane or two down here, and we brought a couple more. And we're just looking to show them off to everybody and share them with you. The Air Force had roughly 250 to 300 of these C-17s made for America. And then after that, there was about 15 or so C-17s that went to places like India and the UK and Australia and Qatar and the UAE and a couple of other agencies and countries, to include Canada. I'm probably forgetting a few. So there's a lot of countries out there that have this same exact airplane, and they just have different paint on the outside. Maybe it says something different, but we all look the same on the inside. One of the core missions that all C-17s do is human relief, first aid supplies, just any kind of relief that involves food, water, and first aid supplies that need to get out to places that don't have it, places that don't have clean water or good food. All the countries that own these C-17s, that's one thing we all share, is our governments pitch in to get that stuff on the airplane, and then these airplanes are really good at going out and landing in places that aren't even airports. They're just landing on dirt fields, and the airplane offloads all of its food and water for the humanitarian relief, and that's one thing that we all share in common. Some things that this airplane does specifically that I know my government does is we move around everything that's part of our government that needs to move around. So if you're in the Army and you drive a tank, your tank might need to come on this airplane and go somewhere. Or if you're in the Navy and you have a small boat, just like the boat that's out there, we brought that in here, or a bigger boat. They also come on this, and if the government needs it moved somewhere, they put it on here, and then it's our job from New York to go get it, put it on here, and bring it to where it has to go. Right now, you're standing on a flat floor, so it's real easy to drive something on a flat floor with wheels. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn one of these rollers here on the floor over, And now you'll see that if we were to do this every foot all the way over, this whole floor would have a bunch of rollers on it. And now you could put a whole lot of boxes on those rollers and then just push them real easy to the front or to the back. And then we would lock them down so they don't move in flight. So this aircraft is very versatile because we can change it in just a minute or two. Now before I go on, I want to find a young person that has a question for me. You look like you're young and I feel like you're thinking something. Nothing? What about you behind him? Any questions? What do you got?
Where's the black box?
The black box, funny as you may ask, it's back there. If you could find it, it's like a traffic light. It says red, yellow, green.
Yep.
And inside of that, the trick that nobody tells you is it's not black. It's bright orange. And it's back there. I don't know why they call it the black box, but that's what it is.
How much does it weigh?
This airplane weighs approximately 275,000 pounds without cargo and without gas. Inside the fuel, that's where the wings meet in the middle, but all of the wings on the outside, inside of them holds the gas. So to answer your question, if I had all of the cargo I could possibly take and all of the gas I could possibly take, I would weigh 585,000 pounds for takeoff, which is, that's a jumbo jet. What's more impressive is we can load this thing up with a Abrams tank and still be able to fly with it. You know, get this huge tank off the ground. It's a crazy thing to see if you've never seen it before.
Can it also refuel while flying?
Refuel while flying, yes. We can take on gas from another airplane. The airplane that's next to us right now is the KC-46. It's also just a Boeing 767 that's been modified. So you've seen those with different paint jobs on them that it might say Qatari Airlines or it might say American Airlines, but that one doesn't have the seats inside like an airliner, and the back end of it, if you look at that airplane, comes down, and then another airplane, if that's down, another airplane like us comes up, and we get the fuel while we're flying, and then we separate, and then we go on our way. So it allows us to not have to land in about 6 or 7 hours. At about 6 hours, we go get gas, and then we could fly for about another 6 hours. And that could go on and on and on until we have enough food to last. And then once the food is gone, we're probably gonna have to land. Any other questions? I love questions, by the way.
You said this is also a Boeing, right?
A what?
A Boeing.
A Boeing?
A Boeing.
Oh, Boeing. But it's a Boeing.
Boeing. So can the pilots also in the cockpit decide not to drive? Can they also drive themselves? Because I know the new ones, they have that self thing, right?
Yes. She's saying, can the airplane eventually fly itself? And yes, right now, this plane could take off at this airfield with the right pilots. They punch in all of the coordinates and tell the airplane, fly to all of those coordinates. And the pilots will just watch and make sure that the airplane doesn't make a mistake. I don't think the airplane makes too many mistakes, but we always want a human being to watch it and make sure, because there's a lot of people in the back of the airplane that want to live. So
In an emergency landing, how long should your runway be? In an emergency landing, if anything were to happen, you need to land. Where are you going to land?
So
in an
emergency landings are tricky because there's so many different kinds of emergencies. You could have an emergency.
Let's say the one engine dies and you only left with one engine.
Well, that's a good emergency if you ask me, because you only need one engine to land. Really. So, you know, but now let's say you lose all of your engines. You need something to land. You need an engine. So at that point, you just turn into a plane that doesn't have any engines, and that's a glider. So now a pilot would want to just simply use his altitude that's up high. He's not going to fall straight out of the sky because the plane still wants to fly. Just like when we were kids and we made a paper plane and threw it in class, it would still want to fly without the engine. So the plane would eventually find its way and maybe circle around a little while, losing a little bit of height. But eventually the pilot would say, okay, I see an airport or I see a cornfield. Maybe there's a field out there. So the pilot has to think real fast what he's going to do, and then he makes that action and goes to do it. And then the next question is the landing gear going to go down? if the landing gear goes down, then everything is great. And usually if the engines don't work, the landing gears, they're different, so they will work. Say that again? You're saying this, well, is this flight to help for war? And unfortunately, war is part of all of our lives that we've seen on the TV. And so yeah, is this plane for war? It's more for peace. I think sometimes when we go and we try to, you know, if countries are fighting, I think there's always a good guy and a bad guy, and I'd like to think the good guys are being harsh, but to make the bad guys stop being harsh. So this plane does bring in certain equipment like the Abrams tank that potentially could make war bad. But that's not what they want to do. They don't want to just go kill people. They want to help people and stop war, let people go back to peace. I don't know if that makes a whole lot of sense, but this plane does a lot of different things, and I don't want to say yes or no because I don't know all of the answers to be the end-all, be-all, know everything. Any other questions before we move to the front? Can we what? Can we land on water? So the plane is not designed to land on water. There are some that are. This one is not. In an emergency, I think this plane can land on water. I think the only problem would be once it lands on water, it's not a boat and it's going to want to sink. So if it saves lives, I think the pilots would probably do that because it will save life. Okay, so I'm going to show you something really, really nice and cool about this airplane right up here. Okay. So these pieces right here are part of the Aeromedical Evacuation stanchion system. And what it really is this is just a two-part shelf. And the shelf will actually plug into the floor in these little holes. If you look down, every couple of feet you'll see a round hole. And it matches with these things right here. So I wanted to set that idea up for you to understand that once these things are vertical and spaced out a little bit, now these arms become shelves. And this little circle here, that will actually accept a handle when the doctors are moving around patients and injured people. They're on stretchers, and you have someone in the front and someone in the back, and they're moving that stretcher and the person is on it laying down. Well, when this is set up in the airplane, it will hold 3 levels of patients. So this will be the bottom one that goes on the low side, a middle patient, and then a top patient. So they're stacked up pretty good. So once we do that and the doctors come in with their patients, we just turned ourselves into a mobile hospital, or we could say an ambulance. But this is just one that holds 3. I have another one here that holds another 3, and another one over there that holds another 3. So before you know it, we're able to take on 9 people or 9 ambulances worth of patients, and that's just the minimum. We can go up to 36. So let's just say something really bad happened, some type of terrorist attack, and a lot of people got hurt really quick, and they can get to this airplane really quick. We turn into a hospital in here. Well, at some point in my career, I have seen a dozen doctors and 24 nurses working all sorts of patients that got very badly hurt. So this situation, when we turn into a medevac flight, it really helps people survive after they get sick or hurt, because the key is getting those people into hospitals sooner than later. The longer they wait to get to a hospital, less likely they're going to survive. So all of the countries that have this C17 have this capability of helping people survive after an attack. So that's what we do for our Aeromedical Evacuation mission. I know someone's got a question, and I'm just waiting for it now.
Where is the emergency flight?
Say that again?
Where is the emergency flight?
Emergency, she said, where's the emergency slide? We aren't like other planes that need an emergency slide because they sit up high. As you see here, we sit pretty low. So at any point when we go down, we're going to be down. Yeah, we're not going to need a slide. Anybody else? No other questions?
With the cost of this plane be?
The cost of this plane, it first came out, they were building them by hand on an assembly line in the late 1980s for around $230 million, a little bit give or take. The last one that came off the assembly line a few years ago, they said cost around $200 million because they seem to get the cost down over a 30-year-ish process of building them. Oh.
Also transport the beast.
Yes, he asked if we transport the Beast, which the black trucks, and even the president's helicopter will come on here, and we'll move him wherever he's going to be, to include this airport a few weeks ago. This exact type of plane, maybe not this exact one, but it looked identical, took in my president's limousines and helicopter so he can go meet the South African president, and they were able to have discussions. So that's something that our country does for our president, because we have a lot of friends around the world. We like to make sure our president is safe and has his own vehicles when he gets there. And South Africa was gracious enough to let us bring everything in and get ready for our president to meet your president.
In a normal plane, in terms of emergency, the masks fall off. So in your plane, where are the masks?
Every mask,
Because in a normal plane,
and see these square boxes? Every square box right here
That's where you keep
has
them.
2 masks,
Okay.
and they're automatic. So when the altitude starts to go too low or too high, it will pop out, and then you just put it over your mouth, rubber band back, and breathe.
Those are normal ones, they're up there. They're not on the side. They're on the plane.
All of the ones that you're talking about are on these side walls.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have seats that you can't see now. They're modular seats, and we install them in the center.
Oh.
And when we install them in the center, they also have these in them. But the only trick is we have oxygen. You see the green line hanging there? I have to get that line down and plug it in there, and then, excuse me, and then the system will work like this. Yeah.
That was fantastic. I hope you liked Tony's tour of the C-17, what its capabilities are, and how the American Armed Forces deploy this particular aircraft across the world to carry out whatever missions they wanted to carry out. Keep sharing these videos, keep clicking that like button, keep urging your compatriots to subscribe to the Flying Justice channel, the Angelo TV channel on YouTube. It's the only way we can grow. It's the only way we can take this content across the continent and beyond. And remember, our mantra is, with every hour the cockpit beckons. Indeed, that truth still applies. Whatever activity you're spending your hour in determines how far you will go in this life, determines how far you will go towards achieving your goal. My name is Angelo TV, signing out. Cheers.